Your Voice, Shropshire Disability Network Newsletter, Issue Number 7, December 2010. This section of the newsletter is called Medical Development. This article is entitled Stem Cells Used in Stroke Trial. This is by Pallab Ghosh, Science Correspondent for BBC News. The article can be found on the following website, www.bbc.co.uk/news/11763681. Doctors in Glasgow have injected stem cells into the brain of a stroke patient in an effort to find a new treatment for the condition. The elderly man is the first person in the world to receive this treatment, the start of a regulated trial at the Southern General Hospital. He was given very low doses over the weekend and has since been discharged, and his doctors say he's doing well. Critics object as brain cells from fetuses were used to create the cells. The patient received a very low dose of stem cells in an initial trial to assess the safety of the procedure. Over the next year, up to 12 more patients will be given progressively higher doses, again primarily to assess safety, but doctors will be looking closely to see if the stem cells have begun to repair their brains and if their condition has improved. The company making the stem cells says the trial has ethical approval from the medicines regulator. It also points out that fetuses were used in the very early stages of the research and are now no longer used. Professor Keith Muir, a neuroscientist at Glasgow University and a consultant neurologist at Southern General Hospital, said that if the trials went well, it would lead to more detailed research. We hope that in the future it will lead to larger studies to determine the effectiveness of stem cells on the disabilities that result from strokes, he said. The first group of patients to receive the treatment will be men over 60 who have shown little or no improvement in their condition over a number of years. It's an ideal group to assess the safety of the procedure. Doctors will be keen to know first of all that the treatment makes them no worse. By having such a precisely defined group, this will enable doctors and scientists to compare like with like if they notice any improvement, even in these early stages. If these trials show promise, doctors plan larger trials on a more varied group of patients. The earliest this could begin is in 2 years' time. There will be more focus on assessing the effectiveness, if any, of the stem cell treatment and on which groups it works best. Patients will be monitored for 2 years, followed by longer-term procedures after that. Professor Anthony Rudd of St Thomas's Hospital explains what happens during and after a stroke. The announcement from the Glasgow team comes a few weeks after the US firm Geron said it had begun its clinical trials on a patient to develop a treatment for paralysis. The development of stem cell treatments is still at a research stage and is likely to be many years before becoming widely available. But new potential treatments are now beginning to make their way from the scientist's laboratory into the doctor's clinics. Strokes kill 67,000 people in the UK every year, according to the Stroke Association. The charity says it's the third most common cause of death in England and Wales, after heart disease and cancer. The disabilities suffered by patients also have a greater impact than any other chronic disease, it adds. The trial is being carried out with the Reneuron Group plc, which was given approval from the UK Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, MHRA, in January last year. The company's Chief Executive Officer, Michael Hunt, said the initiation of the clinical trial is a major and hard-won milestone in the development of therapies to address the severely disabling effects of stroke. This article is entitled Routine Screening Could Be Here in 2 Years. This was written by Fiona McRae, and more can be read at the following website, www.dailymail.co.uk/instant-test-40-routine-screening-years. A 30-second test to spot the signs of Alzheimer's in those in their 40s is being developed by scientists. The simple procedure, which warns of the debilitating disease decades before symptoms show, brings the hope of routine screening for dementia in as little as 2 years. Carried out on a computer in a GP's surgery, the test could become as widely used as blood pressure checks. Those found to have a tiny piece of telltale damage to their brains could take preventative measures such as changing their diet and taking more exercise. Quicker detection would allow earlier treatment and, with the help of new drugs, some who test positive might never develop the disease. Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia affect more than 800,000 Britons, with the number expected to double in a generation. Professor David Bunce, who led the research, said, "The study lays open the possibilities for screening, early detection and intervention. The earlier we can intervene with people vulnerable to eventual dementia, the greater the chances of preventing or delaying the disease onset." However, not everyone will want to be told their fate so far in advance, and there are fears that insurance companies could increase premiums for those who test positive. Professor Bunce of Brunel University in London used brain scans to find tiny lesions, each smaller than a grain of rice, in the white matter of apparently healthy men and women aged 44 to 48. Around 15% of the 428 tested had the abnormalities which occurred in the brain's memory hub. Although the research did not show that these people went on to develop dementia, the lesions were similar to those discovered in post-mortem examinations of Alzheimer patients and were found in the same part of the brain. The professor saw that those with the brain lesions performed more erratically in a test of reaction times, which involved watching for 1 or 2 lights on a screen and hitting a corresponding button. Those with lesions had a mixture of slow and fast reaction times, whereas those with healthy brains had either consistently fast or slow responses, the journal PLOS1 reports. The study was funded by Research Foundation, the Leverhulme Trust. Although more research and funding is needed, it is hoped the test could be in doctors' surgeries in 2 to 5 years. It is thought that drugs already on the market would be of little use to combat the disease at such an early stage. However, laboratories around the world are trying to develop pills and jabs that halt Alzheimer's earlier in their tracks. In the meantime, Alzheimer's charities recommend eating a healthy diet and exercising regularly to stave off the disease. Ruth Sutherland of the Alzheimer's Society said, "We know that changes in the brain begin many years before the first symptoms of dementia become evident. It's therefore vital to invest in research into the early signs of dementia in the brain." This article is called "Diabetes Drug for Alzheimer's Explored." It's been taken from the NHS Choices website. A common diabetes drug could be redeveloped as a new treatment for Alzheimer's, reported the BBC. It said that metformin may help prevent the formation of tau tangles, a key brain abnormality linked to the disease. This study investigated whether metformin has any effect on the tau proteins that form these tangles. In studies on mouse cells, metformin increased the activity of an enzyme that can counteract the development of the tangles. Similar findings were also seen in live mice given the drug. These are promising findings, but this is early research and many questions still need answering. It's not known if the drug can prevent or treat the brain changes seen in Alzheimer's in humans, or if it can help with memory, cognition, and recognition problems. Also, the doses used in these experiments on mice were much higher than the equivalent doses used to treat diabetes in humans. It's not known if an equivalent human dose would be safe. You can read the rest of the article at the following website: www.nhs.uk/11November/11pages/diabetes-drug-tested-in-dementia-study.